Доброго дня, шановні журналісти, всіх тих, хто цікавить.
You know that the visit of President Zelensky to Washington, D.C., to the United States, it's obvious that following the statement or the official factors, that this is going to be the largest foreign political event for Ukraine, for its policy. Of course, we need a very broad and large-scale discussion, and we decided that we have to contribute to this intention and to make our contribution on that, since the more so that if you're talking about the assistance given by the United States in this sphere of defense and security, well, this Ukrainian security and defense depends upon the United States a lot for within the nearest future. Actually, we organized this event with the assistance of the International Renaissance Foundation. We do appreciate that. And we believe that our contribution, or the contribution to this intention, must be even on the part, not only on the official participants, but a lot of others. Actually, this idea emerged a long time ago, and we actually formed a team of the authors, I would put it this way, who actually generated such a document in the form of the proposal, the project as a roadmap for the enhanced partnership between, the strategic partnership between Ukraine and the United States. You can see this roadmap. This is a kind of comprehensive document which covers all the spheres of our partnership and our cooperation for the next 2 years. And actually it is rather convenient in my point of view to become the foundation for the generation of the roadmap, the Ukraine-US strategic partnership, enhanced strategic partnership. I do appreciate the efforts of the authors of this document who worked together with myself. Actually, the idea appeared a lot much earlier, but we would like to make our contribution, as I mentioned. Actually, Oleh Shamshur, Ambassador of Ukraine, extraordinary plenipotentiary, Ambassador of Ukraine to the United States in 2014, 2004, 2020, and he was also the ambassador to France, but and also Lena Pavlenko, who is actually the employee of the Dixie Group Analytical Center, non-governmental center. She's the founder of website Ukrainian Energy. She is now on a business trip, and she's not going to join us here, but we do appreciate the advice given by Mr. Oleksandr Sushko, the executive director of the International Renaissance Foundation, who gave us some advice. And though our collective, our team is not very big in size, but we actually also based ourselves on the thoughts and ideas which you can find in the American expert circles. So the document, if we are talking about this one, we can, if you care to know my opinion, based on my experience of working in the United States, I believe that this can be perceived also by our American colleagues. And we are talking about the specific mechanism of cooperation between the two countries. Why, in my opinion, it's very important to take care of such specific, concrete documents. It's understood that given the existence of the two-party, let's say, Republican, Democratic supporting Congress, and actually we have very good level of our relationship between Ukraine and the United States, but actually it's obvious that we have to switch over or to go to another level, because the situation in the world over has changed drastically, and those challenges we face are going to just grow in number and be more profound and threatening. And actually, we're talking about the visit of our president, which is planned for the August 13th. But when we are talking about, we are also talking about the implementation of our enhanced strategic partnership in the years to come. So we are talking about the security, counteraction to the Russian aggression, energy, ecological, environmental issues, thematic or subject changes, the issues of the human dimension of our cooperation, all other things which we have to take care of in the near future. I believe it's expedient and reasonable to have even the regular meeting of the Commission for the Strategic Partnership between the U.S. and Ukraine, the format which makes it possible to implement specific efforts. We had such a meeting back in 2018. Unfortunately, we didn't have any other after that, but I believe that this program can be actually we can talk about this program after the visit of Ukrainian president to Washington, D.C. And such a roadmap can become the result of the meeting of this commission, or maybe another alternative option can be adopted during this visit of our president to Washington in September this year. So time flies, and we are talking about our response to different energy challenges and threats in the Nord Stream 2, and our security and defense issues, which we can discuss with the United States. I'm going to talk about that in more detail later, but the position of Ukraine, just to put it briefly, it's not been made public, let's say, but we had a lot of different ideas that this is the main partner of the United States outside the NATO, MAP, Membership Action Plan. We are talking about our accession to NATO. You know, the position of our partners has been voiced out, and we have our own position, but we are for to have a specific document of kind of defense agreement. If you are talking about the main NATO membership agreement, we are talking about the document which would make our partnership deeper, but just document for the sake of document, we don't need that, you know. And of course, we need support of the United States to gain membership in NATO. If we are talking about the MAP instrument, MAP instrument. Another thing which I would like to emphasize, we are talking about the development of the civil society, I would put it this way, because in this document, we provide the foundation for the Ukrainian party, official Kiev, do their homework, especially in the sector of security, defense, rule of law. And, you know, we are talking about the active phase of the completion of the judicial reform, the reform of the security service of Ukraine. We are talking about the corporate governance, where we have a lot of problems, issues of the anti-corruption agencies, their operations, their actions. We say that this is inalienable part of our road to success of Ukraine, which can give another impetus to enhancement of strategic partnership between Ukraine and the U.S. Everybody is talking about the new stage. In my opinion, and based on the experience of my work in Washington, D.C., in the security and defense sphere, we already reached those parameters of strategic partners. We have the same our mutual goals in those spheres, and we are reaching those goals, but at the same time, we have to expand that to the energy sector, to the policy, and other spheres, and the time is up. It's high time to do that, and we are being pushed to do something, let's say, fast, because the situation actually makes us to do that, and we rely upon this this document at this point of time and here and now. And this work, in order to deepen and expand our strategic partnership, it must be based on real resources, must be not only desirable, as the Western position is, but also realistic. It must be very specific, concrete. It must be based on the existing mechanism and the further development of those mechanisms. May I remind you that we have the Commercial Trade and Economic Issues Council between the Ukraine and the United States, which hasn't been working for of late. We have energy dialogue, which is not very well developed now. We have 4 groups in our partnership agreement, including the energy group, which is at the fore now due to the active discussion of whatever pertains to the Nord Stream 2 project. But I believe that everything is going to be revived or further energized, if you will, during the visit of President of Ukraine to the United States. Also, what is important for the understanding that we decided to do that publicly. I'm talking about those proposals, That doesn't mean that they cannot be used by the, let's say, the governmental agencies while preparing the very important strategic documents. We are going to only welcome this. You are going to see that the structure per se of this project, of this proposal, it meets the rules and regulations applied in the diplomatic relationship when they prepare the respective agreements. So I hope that this is going to further broaden this or widen the circle of those who make contribution to our bilateral relations, especially in this very important period. Maybe this will give another impetus to our official structures for the year, let's say, thinking and the generation of new ideas and developments. And number 3, this will allow us to, in order to implement all this, we need something not only on the level of the diplomatic or the ministers and departments, but also the level of the government and the opposition and business and the, let's say, interaction between the local government bodies and on the very, very wide platform of everybody, if you're talking about this strategic enhancement of the strategic partnership between U.S. and Ukraine. And we hope that this document will be instrumental, at least will help us to improve the situation and further deepen the relationship between the United States and Ukraine. Now I'd like to give the floor to the extraordinary plenipotentiary ambassador of Ukraine, Oleh Shamshur. Since you have the question, Oleg, which we have already announced, in the goals or the objectives of the visit of President of Ukraine to the United States, and another issue, the status and form. We're talking about the insurance of the security and defense for Ukraine from the point of view of the United States. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to once again draw your attention to some of the issues or moments which have been already mentioned by Mr. Valery Чалий. First and foremost, I would like to emphasize that what we have done, or we tried at least to do, to develop the draft roadmap, this is definitely it's rather an attempt to make our contribution into the intellectual preparatory process, I believe, which takes place now before the visit of President of Ukraine to the United States. In my opinion, it's not really, it doesn't matter when this roadmap is going to be approved. I'm talking about the roadmap which is going to result from the negotiations of the reps of the foreign political departments and ministers of our country and the United States. And it's desirable that, taking into consideration the ideas which we try to voice as our opinion in our draft roadmap document, but most important that this takes place, generally speaking, definitely, and it's true that together with Valery Чалий, we had something to do with the work of the charter, and very important declaration about the strategic partnership, and we can clearly see that they underuse or do not use the potential which we have in our bilateral relationship. I'm talking about the charter potential. And of course, you will see this is reflected in our draft document. We try to modernize this charter with taking into consideration the transformations which have taken place over this period of time in different places in the international relations. Also, we'd like to draw the attention of many people that when they adopted the charter and then after the meeting of the strategic partnership, they created the philosophical institutional mechanism for the existence of bilateral relationship of the strategic partnership, both for the negotiations, also for the adoption or approval of adoption of specific decisions. It's a pity that we do not have a smooth, let's say, development of this process just by jumps. We had some active phase, then interval or pause. Of course, we can have some useful mechanisms. I mean, this commission, unfortunately, does not work, generally speaking. They do not underuse the potential of the working groups. We believe that we have to put this process into the normal course, I would say. I'm not talking about some kind of, let's say, making this progress bureaucratic. To me, just once a year, shake hands, and that's it. No. We would like this mechanism which exists today and those principles which have been laid as the foundation of this document to make them operational, workable. And this is badly needed by us. This is also needed by the United States as long as they wish to further develop the relationship with our country. This is required for the peace and stability in our region. This is a kind of general remark. Now, as regards the context which we actually implied in this project, we are talking about the preparation of the President Zelensky visit to the United States. And I would like to emphasize in this point of time, what kind of okay, what items have in our agenda. Number one, the expected goals and expected results. The main thing, in my opinion, during this visit, establishment of the confidence relationship. It's very important from the Oval Office when after the negotiation, both presidents leave this Oval Office with the understanding of each other. They understand that they can believe to each other. And this is absolutely required, badly required basis for the further development of our bilateral relationship. Unfortunately, we take, if we look at some of the steps taken by our government or the authorities or the declarations, they were some extra, I would put it this way, maybe counterproductive, which are very bad for our relationship. We have, this is maybe not so much important, we have just to focus our attention to find the proper arguments and do our job. And the decision taken by the United States authorities related to the Nord Stream 2, they did not, nor did they contribute to the improvement of the positive tone of relations between our countries. But again, honestly speaking, this is the main task for our president and his team. Number two, what would be the main result of this visit in addition to what I mentioned before? Definitely in the center of attention and focus of attention, we are going to have the security-related and defense-related issues associated of countering or combating the Russian aggression. Of course, we would like to see both as a result of summing up the results of the visit or just immediately after this visit of our president. We would like to have some specific steps, specific measures, for example, increase of the aid given to Ukraine, military assistance I'm talking about. On the other hand, we have to demonstrate that we do understand what we need and we understand how we should act. And again, we are talking about the issues of competence and confidence and trust, of course. And the third issue, which definitely are going to be raised during this meeting and during the preparatory period, I'm talking about the issues associated with reforms. We have to demonstrate that we understand what reforms we need to take care of and what kind of support we need from the United States. It should not look like that the United States have to show us and tell us what has to be done. We have to demonstrate that we understand that this is something which has to be done, and it's clear to us what kind of assistance we need on the part of the United States. And along those lines, we must have a very constructive negotiations. We do not have to prove that we are right, that we know ourselves what to do. We have to find a very specific tone and, let's say, interaction lines so that the United States would contribute to the implementation of the badly needed reforms by Ukraine. And actually, we try to reflect that in our draft roadmap document. I already mentioned that very important is institutional development of the strategic partnership. Actually, we came up with the specific proposals, and I do hope that this is going to be based on the results, could be seen according to the results of this visit. We need to have the annual meeting on the level of the heads of the different ministers and departments. Maybe this could seem like a formal thing, but this is really, speaking in principles, very much required in order to this discussion to have some kind of substantial nature and to take some decisions as a result of such efforts. And of course, I would like to wish to our delegation, and this my wish comes out is based on what I can see in the process of preparation for the visit. I really wish that our delegation be guided not by what they sometimes say, what we are going to bring back from Washington, not to bring back, not for us. They have to proceed from the need of what kind of issues have to be taken care and resolved in the Washington, and which could be useful for Ukraine and useful for our bilateral relations. This is the issues to be taken care by us, first of all, but also by our American partners. As regards the issue which Valery already mentioned, I'm talking about the issue of the status of the special partner or the defense agreement or MAP, Membership Action Plan. Well, actually, the name is not important. I believe that the status of the main partner doesn't give us anything else. I believe that the level of our relations is sufficient even now. We need today some specific things which could be implemented by through the defense treaty, and we should not invent the bicycle or a wheel again, but we have to move ahead along the verified and sure road towards NATO. Well, it's clear that this is not going to be done quickly. We should not actually maybe submit the application for the MAP tomorrow, but we have to have this as our objective and move toward this end. And the last thing which I would like to mention here, proceeding from the fact that what I can see and what I hear, speaking in principle, actually what this visit can come through or will bring us, this is not going to be determined during the visit per se. During the visit, we can talk, for example, about the establishment of some kind of the personal and confidence or trust-based relationship, but all the substantive issues are going to be resolved before or prior to this visit. And I would like to call upon our negotiators, the members of our team, and our partners as well, in order to most most intensively and constructively use this time preceding the visit per se. Our experience, my experience and Valeriy's experience, that show that everything actually depends upon the documents prepared before the official visit, and whatever is connected to that, and to hope that anything can be radically changed during the visit. As such, those are not realistic expectations. Everything, the goals must be very realistic and not exaggerated. That's my opinion. Thank you very much. I would like to immediately specify one thing for my understanding. If you are talking about the defense agreement which we support, I know that 3 documents are being worked on based on our exploratory research work in the defense sphere. The issue of the, let's say, joint space exploration projects, etc. And this is not something new, but in number 3, which is called the draft defense treaty. But as far as I know, this is not the defense treaty we are talking about, because of course the United States have the treaties which provide the security guarantees. For example, the treaties with Japan, South Korea, or Israel. And also, if you're talking about the agreement of Japan, up to the possibility of using the military force of the United States, if need be. But we have to talk now at least about the following, without, let's say, without even mentioning the potential involvement of the American troops, but all the other elements which will enable us to introduce some qualitative changes in our existing cooperation in the security defense sphere. I agree, this doesn't matter whether we call it security or defense treaty, but the essence is that it has to fully reveal the potential in the sphere of defense security. We are not talking about this document so far, and we have some time to introduce into the draft those agreements which have been preliminary already considered to enhance our positions. Even if you're going to send a political signal, I'll agree that we have to establish or to restore the trust during this visit, etc., etc. But in my opinion, I believe, and this is my opinion, I believe that this visit can be also used for the meetings not only in the White House, but also with the heads, secretaries, let's say, of different departments, and the Minister of Defense, Secretary of Defense, and Secretary of Energy, and trade. Maybe there will be a meeting with businessmen, a traditional meeting with diaspora. But what I mean, the key meetings with the governmental structures must be taken care of during this visit. We do not have time, to waste, especially if we are talking about the energetic issues. And in my opinion, the lack of the mechanism led to the situation when we found ourselves in a situation when the United States actually had to say the situation to stop the Nord Stream 2, or at least the issue associated with that, or why we are not yet members of the NATO. This is, this is not really professional. But speaking about political signal, I'm going to mention just one thing. When I was ambassador in Washington, D.C., we addressed the American parties, and we were talking about the status of the main partner of the United States outside NATO. The key words here, the outside NATO, and how the outside world will consider those words. And we kind of wash our intentions to become to gain the membership in NATO. I don't think this has to be the main argument, because legislatively we do not have any anything which should allow us to claim to become members of NATO, or let's say, or to move maybe towards the MAP. But maybe this can, if we are talking about this being used as a political signal, I would mention you that Afghanistan has such a status. Did they obtain a lot as a result of this? Actually, Afghanistan made them to give them made the force the United States to give them the status in exchange of the presence of American troops in Afghanistan or other countries. In order, this is status when we are talking about the serious reforms in the sphere of the security and defense, the anti-corruption combat, and everything. But the conclusion is, if there is a basic agreement, for example, defense treaty, we can talk about different status. If there is no, if we have just status and going to be empty without, not to be filled with anything else, and this will not give us what we need to have. And another, what my colleague said, we was talking more about the political, diplomatic and the security component, but there is another very important component to our interaction, the basic issues. Our strategic partnership, we are talking about that, is based on the mutual values, on the similar values, and when we, common values, when we are talking about the nature of strategic partners, you can have strategic goals, but if the basic values, basic models are different, you will never be able to implement this strategic partnership. I believe that we have common values and basic issues between Ukraine and the United States, and that's why we are talking now about the mechanism, how to take another step. And if we are talking about the implementation reforms, which will bring us to the enhanced strategic partnership, how to implement those. It's no secret that on the eve of the visit of Antony Blinken to Kiev, there were some issues regarding out of gas and corporate governance. You know, all those 5 issues which were voiced by the, let's say, State Secretary, and other issues which are being slowed down to now. This is the basis, the foundation which will allow us to reveal our potential. So I would like to ask Oleksandr Sushko to talk about this part of the homework of Ukraine. We have not touched yet the issue which we believe are very important, the Ukraine platform, and I know that Oleksandr is just fresh from the let's say the foundation meeting of the Crimea network. What we have to do if we're talking about the rule of law, about the judicial reform, what kind of what issues you would like to take care of before this visit?
Thank you, Valery, for this broad issue that you've raised. This provides opportunity to speak about many things. I'm really glad that today we present this document together with 2 ambassadors of Ukraine to US and ahead of the important visit. This is really a document that may look like a framework document. Maybe it is not detailed, but it provides a clear sign where we may go and how we may promote some priorities that may provide for mutual interest implementation. And now this project, it includes, of course, Ukrainian interests, but also it includes a lot that is often voiced by American side. And Valery mentioned this coincidence concerning many interests. Not only a coincidence of the interest, but also understanding of common values. I clearly remember 2019, there was a visit, the first visit of President Zelensky to US. And we have seen photos and videos that are shown discomfortable character of the visit, taking into account circumstances that resulted in the procedure of impeachment to US president. The situation was difficult for President Zelensky. He had to maneuver in very unfavorable diplomatic circumstances. And the Ukrainian side had little to do with it. So now the situation is interesting. How can we compare the situation before the new visit that will happen at the end of this month? First, we understand that we do not have those problems that we had before that turned these relations in some toxic relations. And at the same time, we do not have euphoria. The sides understand the limits of opportunities and the limits of flexibility. Does this mean that the sides understand the reasonable limits of these opportunities? Because sometimes it is important to manage those expectations. This is good for diplomacy. Sometimes it looks like we had some critical views on positions of Ukrainian side. Sometimes it was based on the fact that we have seen that from one side there are high expectations concerning one issue, and the American side cannot provide positive answer in this. And from the other side, there is little attention to some important issues, underestimation of some issues. And it is easy to provide answers to these questions, but these issues were underestimated. And it looked like Ukrainian side haven't heard what priorities were voiced publicly and privately by the US party. And on the eve of Mr. Blinken's visit, there was a procedure of swap in positions in the Naftogaz, and this influenced negatively on the atmosphere of the visit, and this is still a factor of negativity in bilateral relations. About conclusions that were made, whether the president and his advisors, do they understand the priorities that were voiced by Trump administration and those that are promoted by Biden administration? The simplest example, you may find approach to Trump through promotion of some issues concerning business contracts, some investments, infrastructure projects, roads, many issues were discussed. This is real politics. This is business, and it worked with Trump, and it will work less with Biden administration. Business proposals are important, but they may be perceived not in a productive way, and I hope that Ukrainian side understand these things. what issues may be resolved with this administration, what issues we had to resolve this with the previous one. We should understand these issues. And Ukrainian political culture on the whole overestimates real politics. Trade-offs are overestimated and underestimates and do not read correctly the signs that show the value of partnership. Diplomacy of US with Germany and Ukraine, and they choose the interests of Germany, for example, or Ukraine, if these interests differ. US may provide more attention to the interests of Germany, not to the interests of Ukraine, because Germany is the key ally in Europe, and Ukraine is a strategic partner, but its role for US is less. And this is objective reality. What we may do in such a situation, how to compensate for these negative things that come out of these recent trade-offs from US to Germany in the sphere, for example, of the Nord Stream 2. And in the roadmap, there are some points. If these points are implemented, they will provide answers. If we are not able to stop this project on the whole, maybe we may turn this loss into victory. Maybe there may be some compensations, not banal compensation like money, but maybe some solutions at the systemic level may be provided. For example, concerning energy security and energy business, that would help Ukraine to actively integrate into the European and global energy markets. It could be done more efficiently, and America may help on this. And the authors of this roadmap believe that here lies big potential. And energy section of this roadmap is bigger than others, and there are opportunities, a number of steps that may be implemented, and they may significantly change the situation. And Ukraine may become less vulnerable due to these steps. And this is not only about the interests of Ukraine, but this is also about the interests of the USA and Europe. This is a classic win-win situation, but some political will is needed because there are competitive interests, and opponents are always active. This is an example, and we see many examples. And this is about interests and values. In theory, we see that we need some choice. We need to choose interests or values. But in diplomacy, in the practical area, we see that they go together. We understand that there are many different aspects, and there are many political games, and US wants to improve their relations with Germany, for example, and many people don't understand this. They say that they, for example, do not promote the interests properly. For example, they want to help their European partners, for example, concerning liquefied gas. And we should understand these issues, but by understanding this, we should provide our menu of proposals. And it is partly implemented in this roadmap. We understand that we cannot do all of it, and we haven't implemented all these issues timely to stop some negative things. But if the situation changes and Ukraine may lose its transit status, and what we will have instead of it, so we may be integrated more in European energy markets, and we should work on this. We should develop a separate roadmap, maybe in this area. And in Ukraine, we have enough experts to work on this document. And in US, there are partners who are ready to develop and promote and lobby these things. This is one of the examples how this model of expert involvement and active promotion may help the state to find a win-win situation in a situation where everything looks like failure, actually. And I hope that this document is timely, and the date of the visit was shifted several times. It was not identified, but now we see that this document is timely, and it will be assessed by those who now prepare the visit of the president and the agenda of the visit and those proposals that we will be provided, the proposals from Ukraine. And I agree with my colleagues that the issue of atmosphere of relations and building trust, this is the key task during this visit. And we do not have heightened expectations, and we should not form these heightened expectations in the society concerning some documents, some far-reaching results. We won't have them. But we should lay the basis. We understand that there are many difficulties, political ones, diplomatic ones, and even personal. Many people say that Biden and Zelensky, they are really different people, and we should be careful concerning our expectations. But we see that this visit, it is not spontaneous. We have all grounds to prepare to this visit using the work of independent experts and diplomats, specialists. And we may take good opportunities using this roadmap.
Well, actually, what I would like to talk now, we were talking about the homework we have to do. But please pay attention, you maybe will read it later. We can see the spheres where the United States can help Ukraine. And our objectives, our goals, actually, this document starts with the phrase that our own efforts can reveal the potential of the strategic partnership between Ukraine and the United States, but not from point of view of some expectation that somebody will do something instead of us. You know, this approach of ours is the approach that the Ukraine is the subject to international relations and international policy. One more thing which I would like to draw attention to that. This is my opinion. I don't know whether my colleagues share this. Despite the declarations of this transparency and affirmation of the foreign policy and the constant emphasis upon this, the fact that there are some drastic achievements made, but I would like to those declarations to be based on some steps, practical steps taken. If we are talking about the transparency, then we should not keep silent or keep secret about our strategy as the document of modern times. So in the eve of this visit, we can see the role of the United States like any other of our partners. If we are talking about such interaction, I believe that we should have some very serious, well-grounded preparation in the government, not only in the foreign ministry, MFA, but not only have the interaction with discussion the Nord Stream or transition of natural gas, but of other key issues which is high time to put to the fore. If you're talking about the following, if we agree to the procurement and the joint production of the rolling stock and the railroads, this topic disappeared somehow. We have other countries which appear on the front line, but the United States are responsible for 90% of the military assistance given to Ukraine. On the eve of this visit, the Congress may approve, and the President of the United States can support of the increase in the military assistance given to Ukraine. But the key issue, and I know this based on my own experience, and Ambassador Shamshur knows that we are not talking about the trust or the key issues. And the key issue today is the war with the Russian Federation. But we are talking about the qualitative changes. If we are talking about sphere of the defense, we can talk about the new, let's say, armaments, let's say the air defense, the enhancement of our the defense. We are talking about the Black Sea and the free navigation in the constant or permanent presence of NATO in the Black Sea. We understand what challenges this entails. If you are talking about these spheres of economic cooperation, indeed, there are projects, infrastructure projects, we are talking about structure, which those projects can be implemented, but the terms and conditions are very important. The United States is important not in the quantity of the, let's say, of the trade circulation, but we were talking about the United States. We also touch upon the issue here about the effect of the United States in the Navy. IMF. We heard that we are going to have 2.7 billion as a gift on the year of the Independence Day. No, this is not true. This is not a gift. All the countries which received the assistance from IMF, this is related to COVID pandemic, and each country receives that help, including Russia. But the tranche, which is 0.7 billion, whether Ukraine is prepared for such investments. There are some questions regarding this tranche. Again, based on the previous experience of mine, that just to restore the trust, it's a wonderful thing, but there must be some specific results without any exaggerated expectations. Specific results following the visit of Washington, D.C. In September, we are expecting another tranche from IMF. There must be some kind of statement regarding new armaments. I know that the financing is going to be continued, and what we receive annually in many years, this sum increased gradually. I was talking about the government, I believe the government does his task, if you're talking about our American, Ukraine-American relations, and the memorandum which we signed between the parliament of the two countries, the Congress of the United States and the Verkhovna Rada Ukraine, it's not being used today. There is no constant exchange of visits of delegations, especially on the eve of the visit of the President of the United States. I understand this is a vacation time now, but I don't see some activity here, taking into consideration that on the end of this month, the Congress will go on vacations. We are talking about that, and we make our contribution, but this is also an attempt to push and to increase the activity of the Ukrainian party, and not to talk that everything is good here, but to demonstrate the result after August the 30th, trust, I agree with you, qualitative increase regarding the status and the essence of the military essence to Ukraine, given to Ukraine, because now new challenges, the let's say the exercise in Belarus, and you remember that we do not recognize Lukashenko as a legitimate president, but he is the head of the country, actually, de facto. And he called Ukraine as a threat to Belarus, and they were going to have this joint military exercise with the Russian Federation in this month. And in other words, those threats are present. They did not disappear. And the internal threats and their formation, would put it this way, of the country also create the problems for interaction. The state procurement has not been fulfilled in normal way. Only 2 contracts have been signed, and there is no other movement along those lines. Actually, we now find ourselves about the regulation of the east of Ukraine. This issue is the kind of in the dead end, or cul-de-sac. And we would like to have our agenda to be a key one also for the regulation on the part of the United States, as it was the case before. When Ukraine was always present on the pages on different mass media and the public publications in the United States. And today, if we take yesterday's declaration statement of Mr. Blinken, if we're talking about the the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of Ukraine, everything is based on the reforms, etc., etc. This is the emphasis made by them. So I believe this is our homework, and something which we can just table and say that, see, we are the strategic partner, moved ahead to such an extent, and we can actually switch over to a new stage. So we have to put ourselves some ambitious plans without exaggerations, expectations. This is my position. Well, actually, what about you? I don't think that my position radically differs from yours, and the co-authorship in our work in the generation of these documents doesn't mean that we might not have some, let's say, difference of opinion. I would like to say that, speaking in principle, we need the president and his team has to try and find the common language, let's say, to organize, to build a constructive dialogue with our American counterparts. We have to have a clear understanding that the American party, the United States, is our main and most powerful partner. The more so that they recognize that Ukraine for them is a strategic partner. This is really very important. And speaking in principle, I agree with what has been said by Valery Chalий, but even if we say that the United States has something, the Congress does something, but this is, they have something, but they may not do something. So in our dialogue, we have to find the opportunity to understand where we can achieve some progress. It doesn't mean that we should not promote our point of view. Of course, we have to do that, but we have to table necessary arguments. Like Oleksandr mentioned, that even those issues when the American parties say that they are right and we believe that they are not right, we have to find the opportunity to prove, but using the language understandable for them. We are talking about our arguments, and we have to find the opportunity to make progress along those lines. Once again, coming back and what we already mentioned. In my opinion, we have to build both. We take care of the preparation for this meeting and the meeting per se in order to find the common language, as they say, the common ground, providing the arguments for our interests and providing the necessary, let's say, messages and do everything for this visit not to end. And I agree with you, to end just kind of the general declaration and general statements, if this delegation fails to achieve something specific or concrete, they need to have to define the ways how to move ahead to those goals. But those goals must be common goals, mutual goals. In my opinion, this is really important. In other words, and I mentioned that already, we have to use this preparatory period to a maximum extent. And this preparatory period, during this period, we have to achieve some key relations. As they say, this visit, to some extent, is the kind of silver bullet and our silver bullet in our, let's say, American-Ukrainian relations, much lead to the situation when we achieve the qualitative transformations and the prospects for those qualitative changes in our relationship. Thank you. Actually, we already voiced our main positions and basic positions. Maybe there are some questions, so please raise your hand and introduce yourself. Actually, provide some information, but we need some specification where we can actually see this draft roadmap, where we can went with those. And we find ourselves in the Ukrainian Crisis Media Center, which was actually established as the response to the events of 2014. This used to be the platform, the key platform of communication with the journalists, domestic and foreign. So how we can actually convey this message? We have a limited number of decision makers, but for the people not to expect something extraordinary, maybe we have to take some steps during the period of time before this official visit. You know, of course, we started this presentation, and you are the first who actually watched this and who can see that. Following this meeting, based on the, we are going to provide the links and documents, both also in English language for our colleagues. And I know that yesterday American journalists approached me, American experts approached me, and now I'm talking as the chairman of the board of the UCMC. We have a multi-thousand, let's say, transmission, and we actually mail a lot of information to our American colleagues, including the American senators and congressmen, and this may be this will make it possible to push through our position. We are not talking about some kind of the thoughts or the ideas, but we are talking about technologically prepared issues, which maybe I'm talking about the issues which, in our opinion, were not really prepared, but we are talking about some pragmatic documents. Oleksandr was talking about some details. The details are the issues of implementation of this roadmap and the Commission on Strategic Partnership work. That's why, speaking in principle, now this transmission is actually translated by we have the circular translation and actually simultaneous translation, and actually since the establishment of UCMC back in 2014, our task was, first of all, to convey the truth about this country, about our actions, and combating the attempts to annex the Crimea, and we continue to do our work, and Ukrainian journalists and foreign journalists as well. Actually, this is the huge resource of our bilateral partnership, which exists today. We have today. I believe that Ukrainian journalists also have to be more active, even on the eve of this visit, presidential visit, if we are talking about the analysis of the available situation, but also to push our officials to resort to more active actions. Yesterday they mentioned that these preparations, 3 weeks, will be in silence, and actually, I perceive this. I understand it as there will be no more statements of the certain people faction like Mr. Arhamia. We are talking about this information space of Ukraine. I do value that there is the professional understanding among the journalists that the success of the foreign policy is not just our defense or security, but also it means the further development of our country. Actually, also even the money which the citizens of this country, there is maybe one element which is not directly proceeds from this roadmap, but you actually remind me of that. Two items: humanitarian dimension, interhuman, the human dimension, let's say, and we actually included not very ambitious task to start with the simplification of the visa regime for Ukrainians visit to the United States. When I was there was a lot of rejections. Let's say they refused to issue visas to Ukrainians. No, you're not talking about the potential immigrants, or let's say, but we have the catastrophic increase in such refusals, catastrophic increase. And some of our students have the visa for 3 years, but they study for 4 years. So this is, the issues which can be easily resolved. And those steps which can support the further liberalization, we have to take those steps, to make those steps. In my opinion, this component of the bilateral relationship was kind of somewhat slowed down, because maybe of the pandemic, but not only of pandemic, but the decrease of the activity and our center answering a question, continue this work, UCMC I'm talking about, and this event of ours is the continuation of those efforts, and I do appreciate the efforts of my colleagues who worked on the publication, to issue this publication, and they continue to work in the UCMC despite this summer vacation period. But for the activities in the American direction, so to say, in the United States direction, there cannot be any vacations, I would like to thank our esteemed speakers and the authors of this brochure. My name is Oleksandr Sushko, head of the group of the different threads of the UCMC. I have one remark and one question. The remark, which it's very important for me to voice, it relates to my absolute solidarity with the position of Mr. Oleh Shamshur, who emphasized the clear understanding, articulation of our own vision of the reform, so that it doesn't look that like the United States have to dictate us what to do. As a person who deals with information security, I know that the opposite situation will only enhance one of the most dangerous narrative about the, let's say, the external control of Ukraine. I agree with you, and I thank you for that. Speaking about my question, I didn't have a chance to read this booklet. Maybe my question may seem very simple, but I would like to address to Valeriy Chalий. I would like to ask you, speaking about our combating the Russian aggression, what would be in your opinion, the easiest and the most complex steps, especially if we are talking about the information sphere, the easiest and the most complex, in your opinion? Well, thank you, Oleksandr. We are not going to show all the cards in your report regarding the hybrid threats of UCMC. Actually, you made this opportunity to make an announcement, so you have to work on that. Most likely, you are going to answer this question yourself, but speaking about non-information component, not combating the information threats or counteraction to information threats, but I would like to say that, in my opinion, we still have the threats associated with the Russian aggression in the security sphere, in the military sphere. In my opinion, the statements that we should not expect let's say, the aggravation on the part of Russian aggression, which I can hear the opinion of experts. Those who promote the neutral status of Ukraine, they say that everything is okay, everything is normal. No, it's not normal. You know, we still live in a very hot phase. There is no frozen conflict in the east of Ukraine. The hot phase still continues. By the way, the question is why it's not being covered properly, because I believe that each wounded person, each case of the losing our warriors, especially the situation, also the situation in the Black Sea, actually can lead to the escalation in the maritime space, Black Sea space. We remember what recently happened. So this is this opinion which is illusory. I already mentioned the September military exercise, and I will repeat my opinion. Sooner or later, Ukraine will be forced to face even more aggressive actions on the part of Russia. Actually, I would briefly answer to your question, why so? Well, in my opinion, there is an element, a kind of the force blackmail on the part of Russia, which actually was successful. That's why Putin was actually have the meeting with the leaders of the Western countries, first of all with the United States. He's talked with the Joseph Biden. Those things which we didn't mention today, but the right of power, right of strength prevails today, and that's why I say that we do not need some kind of document, though it's also important. We need some real assistance in the military sphere. So it's not enough to have the support of the training programs, even those counter battery radars and the communication means and javelins and kind of anti-tank armaments, even the air defense of Ukraine and strengthening of the Navy component even more than the air defense. This is something which has to be done very quickly. In my opinion, nobody can prohibit or forbid Ukraine to have new bases, naval bases, with the participation of our partners. Those will be the Ukrainian bases, but with the right for the foreign contingents be present there. And those elements have to be prepared, you know. In answering your question, I would like to say, if you are prepared for this, and your defense potential enables you to be sure, then there will be no aggression, no attacks. Those positions must prevail. So the key priority is security. When we are talking about the Nord Stream, and this is not the theme of our discussion today, but we are not talking about compensation. What we mean to say that we are on the eve of facing new challenges, and we are talking about some compensatory things in the future. We are talking about the strengthening of the defense capability of Ukraine, but not some kind of illusory things contained in the bilateral statement between Germany and the United States, which had been planned actually before. So the key, I emphasize this, and I proceeded from that the key threat remains to be clearly defined. Security of the country, security of our citizens, and the aggression in Donbass, Russian aggression in Donbass and Crimea. And this hybrid component you mentioned, I agree with that, and I actually share the position of Oleh Shamshur regarding the exaggerated expectations which are being blown out. And even now the Russians say that this is not going to be a successful visit. But this is one aspect of that. But there is a very subtle line here. If you come down, do not, let's say, do not have some expectation. I'm not talking about the public expectation. I'm talking about realistic expectations which must be prepared in different offices. And I hope that those will be implemented. So there is another component in information effort. We should not actually tie it to the Russian information attacks. There are some attempts to switch over that everything's being done behind the border, because this lifts your responsibility to some extent when we are talking what we have to do. We have not to talk, but we do have to do something first of all. And by the way, I'm positive that a lot has to be done here in Ukraine, even within a month's time, in order to be successful in our negotiations with our strategic partner and ally. And speaking about information effort, we expect from you in the nearest future the presentation of the annual report of UCMC regarding the hybrid threats. There are some questions of our followers who watch us online. They would like to know the idea of our speakers. A lot has been said about the objectives and the agenda important for Ukraine during this visit. What objectives, motives would be interesting from the point of view of the United States during this visit?
I believe that we should ask Americans. We should ask Ms. Psaki. I believe that for American side, first of all, it is important to stress and reiterate support to Ukraine in its fight against Russia, and also to deepen and speed up reforms. I believe an important factor is to establish contacts between our presidents, Mr. Biden and Mr. Zelensky, to see how American administration will work with the team in Bankovo Street. And from the American side, I believe there are no expectations and attempts to make this meeting concrete. And our negotiators, they should do everything possible in order to have proper steps in the area that are important for us. And in some areas, we are able to get the support from the United States. And only Ms. Psaki may know answer to your question. I believe that even Psaki is just an orator who provides opinion of her of the administration. There is a diplomatic tone, how they verbalize some expectations. In this case, I believe that we have these 5 points that were expressed by Mr. Blinken during this conference of reforms. And these are expectations of American side, what Ukraine should do. And I believe that they will insist on these points. There are some diplomatic things that were not voiced. For example, what Americans expect, I mean American administration, expects from Ukrainian side. For example, that the Ukrainian side would not interfere into American affairs, internal affairs. This is a delicate issue. From one side, when we are in diplomatic game, we see some differences in the Congress We see differences between the Democratic and Republicans, and now Republicans, situationally, they attack Biden administration for the trade-offs concerning Nord Stream 2, and they create a field for Ukrainian side to use the situation diplomatically. And the White House will be against this, and they provide the signal: do not interfere into our domestic American affairs, because this is counterproductive. And also, they do not like when we interfere in their bilateral relations with Germany or other bilateral relations they believe they do not have relation to Ukraine. And these expectations, we should understand them. We should not act like they expect us to act, but some things that we believe to be normal diplomatic actions, some actions are considered unfavorable by them, and they send signals to our diplomatic corps that we should interfere less in some things, and maybe this will be said to Ukrainian side during preparation of the visit. And now our negotiators and the minister are in Washington, and they prepare this visit. And also, Biden is going to improve their relations with Germany, and there will be some dilemma for Ukrainian side how to promote Ukrainians' interest. And this is what I wanted to add to what is said publicly now. I agree with what you've said, and I would like to say that from what I know, what is being discussed now, there is such an issue. This is not interference of Ukraine, but not to raise Nord Stream 2 topic. And also, there are some estimates that the 30th of August this date was chosen because Congress has some different opinion from administration, and they won't be active at the time. And this is one of the positions that unite Republicans and the Democrats. And this is a fine job, and it is done now. And this should be discussed behind closed doors at bilateral level. And there was a preparatory stage carried out by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. This is a weird format, I believe. This delegation, the minister heads this delegation, the head of the office is in the delegation, so this is weird. This is two separate positions, and maybe this should be done separately. These visits should be done separately. I do not see meetings in Pentagon, and the defense agreement and status of MNA. This is submitted by the Minister of Defense, the Secretary of Defense, to be adopted by the Congress and then signed by the President. I believe that this work with embassy here in Kiev is not enough. Also, the American side expects from us the position, not publicly, but this will be said, concerning sensitive issues of export control, non-proliferation, dual-use technologies, concerning competitiveness with China, and these issues will be discussed. And sooner or later, maybe we won't hear about this publicly. Issues will be discussed concerning cybersecurity, and we are speaking about it because this is really important issue. We have cyber dialogue with US, and for 2 years it has been really active. Now we hear less about this dialogue, but this dialogue is continuing, and there are issues concerning sensitive sectors, and there are issues that will be voiced publicly concerning reforms, 5 points provided by Mr. Blinken, but this is not all. And in a month, we may do a lot of things concerning domestic affairs. Everything is in dynamics, and Chaos was found. 2 reforms now are carried out. Independent structures were created. Anti-corruption structures supported by U.S. were created. New signals are sent concerning corporate governance and the scandals concerning Bureau of Economic Security, and this should take functions of economic. This should take economic functions from SBU. We should not create new problems. A lot of issues will be discussed. So configuration of this preparation shows that, and I agree with Ambassador Shamshur, that our task officially is formulated like this: to have this meeting to get some signals, to establish a dialogue between the presidents, and to lift these problems, these attempts to work not through diplomatic channels, but through other ways. And some officials, their names were mentioned, and there were some attacks carried out by Russian information attacks. And we should move forward. We should open new opportunities. Rebuilding trust is not enough. We should make further steps in our bilateral relations. And we should be more active. We should have basic trust, and then we should work actively. I believe we should have ambitious goals, and at the same time not to have expectations that are too high, not to have them publicly. So we should reinforce our work. We should have ambitious but realistic goals. Time provides new threats, and we should respond to them properly. So time is up, and we provided our main positions, and I am really satisfied with this coordinated work of the experts of the high level, and we will make this document public. I believe that this is a quality basis and proposal, a draft on which we may create a document, and this document is being created. This is not an alternative. This is a proposal, help to be used by both parties. This is a call of Ukrainian experts to Ukrainian and American power. This is the best way how to do this, not just to ask Mr. Biden why we are not in NATO. This is a more constructive mechanism. I'm grateful to you, to journalists, to all those who joined us. Ukrainian-American relations, they have their history. Their today and their future presidents will change. This is a controversy. And in Ukraine, in the US, they will change. And one more aspect. In Russia, yes, they will change, but we do not know for sure when. In Ukraine and in the US, we have democracy. And we also should understand that there is power and opposition. There are Republicans and Democrats. There are different opinions. That Washington and US, this is not just the White House, not only Congress. These are different structures, ministries, different states, communities that have influence, lobbying groups. So it would be desirable to cover all those issues, and this would be wonderful. This is our dream, that Ukraine, our ambassador, Ms. Markarova, will be able to present the letters of credentials, and with all respect to Catherine Quinn, and George Kand, who recently visited Ukraine, and we wish we do not interfere, and we wish to American side to find a way and to find solution together with Senate and to speed up the procedure to appoint the ambassador of US to Ukraine. And also, we want to have more active actions. We have strategic issues, midterm prospect issues, technical issues, organizational issues, and we propose this roadmap for the nearest future for 2 years. And strategically, it is evident we have the strategy on foreign policy concerning US, and we should identify these issues concerning the model of security of Ukraine, not only desirable, but the model that can be implemented. We support NATO membership. Possible model, Japan and South Korea work as allies of US that narrow our opportunities with other countries, but broaden our opportunity with US. And maybe the model, the main ally in defense area, for example, that US has, for example, India or Israel, they are the main strategic partner of US. So the title may be different, but the essence should correspond our potential of both parties. And for Ukraine, we understand that we are pressured externally. So for us, we should be dynamic and active. And this is the task for the whole country, not only the task for diplomacy. And we believe that the parliament, the government, and all others, they should cooperate. We should speak in one voice, and this voice will be heard in Washington. And this is an optimistic view, and I'm optimistic about this. And I would like to thank the authors and all those who joined to help to create this roadmap. And I would like to thank all those who have the interest to this document and will be able to use our proposals in their work. We thank journalists, experts. We thank you for your attention, and we wish you success. And we wish you efficiency in all your actions. All the best to you.